in the universe one, and so we'll start the evening off with a trailer for tour.
What is it that makes us human? Is it our accomplishments, our capacity for love, our search for meaning? What is it that compels us on this search in the first place? Our desires really are more important than we know. Not just superficial desires or the things we want at the surface. This is about the atomic energy of our souls, that ache, that longing we all feel for something. I think we feel this ache especially when we allow our hearts to be pierced by beauty. Beauty has the ability to wake us up, to remind us who we really are. We've forgotten who we are in the modern world. Where does this hungry void come from? Why do we have it? And what are we supposed to do with it? Is there anything that can truly fill these hearts?
I'd like you to think of a time in your life when your heart was pierced by beauty. You think of a time where you encountered something so beautiful that it felt like a dart just went into your heart and it hurt. Anybody have an experience? I see you nodding your head. Do you mind sharing? What was it?
Yes.
No? Yeah, go ahead. Go, and then we'll go to you. Go ahead.
Alright. I was on this trip called Rocky Mountain, Colorado.
Uh-huh.
And we climbed a 14er, yeah. And when we got to the top, it was just really, just an incredible scene, like, just being able to see, like, mountains in the distance, being above the clouds.
So at the top of this mountain, climbing a 14er, I've done it in Colorado myself. You're at the top of this mountain, and you're looking out at this beautiful sky, beautiful mountains, and your heart was pierced by something beautiful, huh? Beautiful. How about you?
Had a baby cousin, I rocked her to sleep. I felt like that ultimate dependence and like so much love over.
She was rocking her baby cousin to sleep, and she felt the dependence of this baby on others for existence, right? And just holding that baby pierced your heart with something beautiful. I think we've all had the experience, maybe a song, even a movie. I mean, I'm a movie buff, and certain movies pierce my heart. I remember the first time I had a song that just pierced my heart. I was like 7, 8 years old. I'm listening to the radio, going to sleep, and Bruce Springsteen came on. The song was Born to Run. Okay, this is the 70s, so long before a lot of you were born. And at the end of this song, how many know the song Born to Run by Bruce Springsteen? Okay, at the end of this song, the boss just opens his rib cage and he lets this cosmic cry come out of his heart. And it goes something like this. Whoa, 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 whoa. The ceiling split apart, and I'm staring into the universe, and something cosmic just like rumbled through my soul. And I was like, whoa, what the heck was that? It wasn't until about 30 years later, this is 2005 now, I'm watching Bruce Springsteen induct U2 into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. And listen to what he says. Bruce Springsteen and U2 and Bruce Springsteen, these guys like make up the whole like soundtrack of my life, okay? So to see the boss induct U2 into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame was really something else for me. But this is what Bruce Springsteen said. He said, a great rock band searches for the same kind of combustible force that fueled the expansion of the universe after the Big Bang. They want the earth to shake and spit fire. They want the sky to split apart and for God to pour out. Then he paused and said a bit sheepishly, "It's embarrassing to want so much and expect so much from music. Except sometimes it happens." Can you think of a favorite song where something opened up, something cracked open in your soul? What is it about these experiences of beauty? Through creation, through a mountaintop, through a baby, through a song? And why does it hurt? Why, when it pierces our hearts, why does beauty cause us to ache? Pope Benedict says that beauty has the ability to awaken in our hearts our deepest desires, our deepest longings. And we're going to talk a lot tonight about desire, about longing, and about what the gospel has to say about desire and longing. And I think we all know what I'm talking about when I say longing, when I say yearning, when I say desire. My gosh, turn on the radio and you're going to hear this cry of the human heart. We're all looking for something, right? Sorry to quote from Bruce Springsteen again, but you're probably familiar with the song, "Everybody's got a hungry heart," right? Or here I go with Bono, my other favorite band, right? "Well, I still haven't found what I'm looking for." What is this guy looking for? This guy has climbed the highest mountain. He's run through the fields. He's searching for something. He's looking for something. Why? Because he has got this mad, wild, burning, aching desire in his soul. What is this thing? What is this thing we're looking for? What is this ache we feel? The Greeks called it, anybody know? What did the Greeks call this yearning? Got a guess? No? 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 Eros. Who said that? High five. The Greeks called this yearning, the Greeks called this aching, longing, eros. What English word do we get from eros? Erotic. Now, in our world today, that which is erotic is typically connected with that which is twisted and pornographic. And that's not what I'm talking about here. I like the Greek word eros a little better because it has retained the richness of its meaning. Eros, Plato said, is the desire in the human heart for everything that is true, good, and beautiful. And yes, it's deeply connected with our bodies as male and female and the whole mystery of sexuality. So we're going to be trying to unfold that tonight too. But here's the tragedy. A lot of us grow up in Christian homes where there's very little discussion about eros, about these deep longings we have. In fact, a lot of people think of Christianity as kind of opposed to desire itself. Like your desires are only going to get you in trouble, so you need to repress your desires, especially those erotic ones, because they're really going to get you in trouble. So you got to repress it, ignore it, annihilate it, but follow all of these rules, and you'll be a good, upstanding Christian citizen. This is what I call the starvation diet gospel, where we're not told about our hunger and we're not given anything to satisfy it. We're told our hunger's bad. And this is when the culture's fast food gospel starts to look very attractive. What do I mean? The culture knows we're hungry. The culture has really understood eros pretty well. The culture knows that we are creatures of erotic longing. And what the culture is saying is, this is what you want. What does the culture say? Money is one. What else does the culture say? What's the biggie? Sex, 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 and more sex. This is what the culture is incessantly telling us we want. Or the culture is always trying to connect sexual fulfillment with its products. And for 3 easy payments of $19.95, you'll have satisfaction guaranteed. Hold on a minute. Let's scrutinize this. Let's take an honest look at it. Sex, sex, and more sex. This will make us happy? This will bring satisfaction? This will bring fulfillment? Really? I look at our world today, and I see a lot of sex going on. But I see very little contentment, very little happiness, very little fulfillment. Do we really think the reason Mick Jagger can't get no satisfaction is because he's not having enough sex? Is that Mick Jagger's problem? At last count, at least so says Mick Jagger's biographer, Mick Jagger has bedded 4,000 women. 4,000. This is not something to admire, gentlemen. And this guy still can't get no satisfaction. Maybe it's because this desire we feel is for something infinite. And if that's true, if this ache, if this longing, if this hunger we feel as human beings is actually a desire for the infinite, then nothing finite will ever satisfy. I'd like to suggest that we have 3 choices with our desire. We're either going to repress it, that's the starvation diet. We're either going to indulge our desire in the pleasures of this world, that's the fast food, the promise of immediate gratification. Or we're going to learn how to direct our desires for infinity to infinity. In short, we will either become a stoic, an addict, or, in the Christian sense of the term, a mystic. What do I mean? Well, we know what the stoic is, right? A stoic is someone who's afraid of desire, doesn't want to feel it, so represses it. We know what the addict is. When the addict takes his desire for the infinite to something finite, does it satisfy? No, so what does he think he needs? More. And he goes and he gets more. Does it satisfy yet? No, so what does he think he needs? More, and more, and more, and more. That is not happiness. That is addiction. But a mystic, in the Christian sense of the term, is someone who feels the very same hunger and ache that the addict feels. But the mystic is learning how to redirect desire according to God's design so he can launch towards his destiny. In my book, Fill These Hearts, I call that living your life in 3D. Directing your desire according to God's design so we can launch towards our destiny. You know, the great sinners and the great saints are made of the very same stuff. What is it? Who said it? Scream it out. Passion! Amen, sister, preach it! The saint and the sinner, they are both made of a wild passion. What's the difference between the great saint and the great sinner? Where they direct their passion. Exactly. The great sinners are taking their passion to the fast food. The great saints are the ones who have discovered what Jesus calls the banquet or the wedding feast. Unless existence is cruel, There simply must be some kind of feast, some kind of banquet, some kind of fulfillment that corresponds to the wildness of the desire we feel inside. Did you know that if you are to live Christian faith in its fullness, you are called to go wild? Did you know that? But I'm talking about vertical wildness. If we take that wild, crazy thing inside and we go horizontal with it, we're going to end up at a frat party. Right? But there's something, even though a frat party is misdirecting desire, we still see a sense, we catch a glimpse of something. We're still recognizing we're creatures of desire. But we're taking desire to the wrong place. I'm not here to condemn desire. I'm here, I hope, to give you an insight that we can redirect our desire to something that really satisfies. Put it this way. Who is closer to the mystic? The Stoic or the addict? Why do you say the addict? Who said that? Okay, because he's in touch with his passion. He's taking it to the wrong place, but at least he feels it. The Stoic has repressed passion, has lost his passion. St. Augustine put it this way. St. Augustine said, "He who is lost in his passion is less lost than he who has lost his passion." Did you hear that? Let me say it again. He who is lost in his passion is less lost than he who has lost his passion. Now let's be very clear. They're both lost. Okay, I'm not here to put a stamp of approval on the frat party addiction lifestyle, right? But the exchange for addiction must not be stoicism and repression. That is not Christianity. I don't know about you, but I have wild desires inside me. And if the only two choices for that hunger and yearning and ache inside, the only two choices are starve or eat greasy chicken nuggets, I'm going for the nuggets. And that's what I did in my life. I was raised on the starvation diet. And then in my high school and college years, I went for the nuggets. And in my college years, I basically ended up like the guy in the movie Supersizing It. How many of you seen that movie? Okay. The guy who eats McDonald's breakfast, lunch, and dinner for 30 days, right? To see what would happen to him. A little experiment. At the end of this little experiment, we all know, having seen the movie, that he's literally dying. His body's shutting down. That's a picture of my heart. That's a picture of my soul in my college years from having binged on the fast food. And I remember getting on my knees in a college dorm. This is 1988. I remember this night very, very clearly. The whole philosophy of fulfillment in college life, get drunk, get laid. And I'm sure things haven't changed that much in the last 25 years. That was the philosophy, get drunk and get laid. This whole philosophy of happiness and fulfillment just came crashing down this one night. My roommate came back from a party, very drunk, vomited all over our room, smelled to high heaven, so I grabbed my pillow and a blanket and went to a room down the hall. And as I'm closing the door, looking at my roommate, passed out in a puddle of his own vomit, I'm thinking, yeah, that's happiness. Real happiness, huh? So I go down to this dorm room down the hall, I sleep on the floor. This guy comes back from a party, doesn't know I'm there. He has a girl with him. And it went something like this. Stop. exactly what transpired that night, but I do know she said stop and he proceeded. And at some level, I witnessed a date rape. This experience haunted me. And it compelled me to ask some very, very big questions about life and existence and sex and love and what's it all mean? And I remember getting on my knees in this college dorm room, and I didn't have faith. I mean, I had been raised as a Catholic, but I was raised with a starvation vision of things. And if that was Catholicism, if that's Christianity, if that's faith, I don't want anything to do with it. If Christianity is what the world thinks it is, who wants anything to do with it? I'm looking for fulfillment. I'm looking for something that corresponds to this wild ache in my being. And I remember saying, God, if you exist, you're the one who gave me all these desires. You're the one who gave me all these hormones. They're getting me and everybody I know into a hell of a lot of trouble. What is your plan? Do you have a plan? Is there some design here? What is it? Making a long story short, in 1993, a Polish priest named Karol Wojtyła, better known to the world as Pope John Paul II, introduced me to the banquet in a teaching called Theology of the Body. I remember reading this thing for the first time. I was 23 years old, and I'm reading this, I'm like, oh my God. I went to Catholic school my whole life. I've never heard anything like this. Why not? And I knew then I would spend the rest of my life studying this teaching and translating it, because it's really scholarly stuff. I had to have a theological dictionary and a philosophical dictionary next to me as I'm reading this. What does that word mean? What does that word mean? I understood enough to get through it, and I understood enough that this is going to change the world if people could just hear it. What did I learn? Well, I could put it this way. John Paul II's Theology of the Body gave me a frame in which to understand what Christianity is. And very few of us, even if we're raised in Christian homes, even if we go to school our whole lives and take religion classes or theology classes, very few of us ever get the frame that helps the whole picture make sense. Let me give you an example. I'm going to read a paragraph from my book here, and I want you just to ask yourself this question. It's not a trick. Is this paragraph meaningful or meaningless? Everybody with me? Is it meaningful or meaningless? You ready? A newspaper is better than a magazine. A seashore is a better place than the street. At first, it's better to run than to walk. You may have to try several times. It takes some skill, but it's easy to learn. Even young children can enjoy it. Birds seldom get too close. Rain, however, soaks in very fast. One needs lots of room. If there are no complications, it can be very peaceful. A rock will serve as an anchor. If things break loose from it, however, you will not get a second chance. Meaningful or meaningless? What do you say? How many are going to go for the meaningless? I think it's pretty dang meaningless. Although maybe a few things in there have a little bit of meaning for you. Maybe you prefer the beach to the street. Maybe you've held something down with a rock as an anchor. But by and large, all these sentences together just have no meaning. Because we haven't been given the frame. And I think a lot of people think the very same thing about Christianity. And maybe even especially Catholicism. There are all these doctrines and dogmas. One God, three persons, purgatory, heaven, hell, the Immaculate Conception, the virgin birth. Only a man can be a priest. Save sex for marriage. Contraception is evil. Only if you're virtuous will you get to heaven. Well, what about me? to people and feed the hungry and clothe the naked. Okay, yeah, social justice. Okay, I can understand that. But all this virgin mother stuff and other dogmas and doctrines just seems meaningless. It's all thrown together. Well, what does that have to do with anything? What if I were to tell you there is a frame that if we're given it, all these seemingly obscure, meaningless things actually come together and it all clicks. What's the frame? K-I-T-E. Huh? Kite. Hold that word in your mind. And let me read this meaningless paragraph one more time. A newspaper is better than a magazine. A seashore is a better place than the street. At first, it's better to run than to walk. You may have to try several times. It takes some skill, but it's easy to learn. Even young children can enjoy it. Birds seldom get too close. Rain, however, soaks in very fast. One needs lots of room. If there are no complications, it can be very peaceful. A rock will serve as an anchor. If things break loose from it, however, you will not get a second chance. Meaningful? So what is the kite that I got from this theology of the body? Are you ready for the frame that makes the whole Christian story click? Are you sure you're ready? Are you sure? I think we'll just end right there. Thanks very much. The frame that makes Christianity make sense is desire for union. And even more specifically, desire for spousal union. The Bible calls it this: the two become one flesh. It's desire for that union that makes the whole Christian story click. How so? It's actually the frame of the Bible itself. The Bible begins with the creation of man and woman and the call of the two to become one flesh. The Bible begins with a marriage. Throughout the Old Testament, God speaks of His love for His people as the love of a husband for his bride. When Israel is unfaithful to Yahweh, what do the prophets say? The prophets say, you have committed adultery against your husband. In the New Testament, the love of the eternal bridegroom is literally embodied when the Word is made. Oh, that's pretty weak. When the Word was made flesh. Skip to the end of the Bible, and the book of Revelation describes heaven. How? Who said it? I heard it over here. As a wedding banquet. As a wedding banquet. Who gets married in heaven? We do. To whom? To Jesus Christ, and the church get married in heaven. Look at the two bookends of the Bible. It frames the whole story. Begins with the married man and woman. It ends with the marriage of God and us. And as the saints have been trying to tell us for 2,000 years, when you look to these two bookends of the Bible, you discover the key for understanding everything in between. God wants to marry us. God wants to share with us His own ecstasy and bliss. Did you know you are created for ecstasy? You are created for an ecstasy and a bliss beyond your wildest imaginations. And this is what those wild desires are for. They're meant to point us to this union of love and ecstasy and bliss that lasts forever. And the Bible calls it a marriage. That's what these aches and longings are for. This is the trajectory of desire. Did you know that? You see, the union of man and woman, as beautiful and wonderful as it is, I mean, sex is awesome. I mean, can you think of anything in life that is more awesome? I don't know about you. I'm a married man, and I think it's awesome. It's awesome. But guess what? That's just a little glimmer of something far more awesome. Far more awesome. God made us here to start the story and called the two to become one as it's like an hors d'oeuvre for the main course, right? It's not the main course, it's just a little taste. It's just a little glimmer. It's meant to point us to our ultimate fulfillment. But you know what we've done in the modern world? We've traded ultimate fulfillment for this little glimmer. And we think this little glimmer is our be-all and end-all. And so in our world today, we are worshiping sex as if it's ultimate fulfillment. It's not ultimate fulfillment. It's just a glimmer of ultimate fulfillment. Or at least, it's meant to be. But we also know that sometimes sex is not a glimmer of ultimate fulfillment and happiness. Sometimes sex is a glimmer of ultimate destruction and pain and sorrow and suffering and sadness. Something has gone wrong here. Something has gone sour here. Any Les Mis fans out there? Have you seen the movie? The musical one I'm talking about, the one that's out now? I've seen it 4 times. I saw the stage musical, I don't know how many times, like 5 or 6 times. Before then I saw the movie 4 times, and I've listened to this music for the last 20 years. Like, this stuff is in my soul. But remember how, and Anne Hathaway, oh my gosh, she does such a superb job with this song. She's talking about a time. She says, there was a time when men were kind. And something, I forget the lyrics, but she's talking about this time when it all made sense, but then it all goes wrong. She says, something went wrong. I dreamed a dream. I had this dream. I had this longing for love, for happiness. But the tigers come at night. And they tear our dreams apart. And they turn it all to shame. What went wrong? Let me give you a visual. Imagine, if you will, and I know here you have to stretch your imagination. Imagine that this is the most beautiful painting you have ever seen in your life. Do I hear some oohs? Do I hear some ahs? Thanks for playing. What is this a painting of? What is literally the most beautiful thing God has created? More beautiful than any starlit night. More beautiful than the Rocky Mountains. More beautiful than even a little baby. Although little baby is related to this painting. More beautiful than a flower or a sunset. What is the most beautiful thing God has created? We are. This is a painting of man and woman just as we were created to be in the beginning when we were naked and felt no shame. It really is the most beautiful thing in existence. The naked human body, male and female, is the most beautiful thing God has created. And this painting is an icon. What's an icon? Can we put an icon up on the screen? We have a religious icon. An icon, like this icon we have here, Mary with Christ kind of mystically inside her womb, this is an icon of Jesus. And usually it's paint and wood. Of course, up here on the screen it's not paint and wood, but you get the gist. This icon is meant to lead me to Jesus himself. It's a sign of Jesus. But if I worship the paint and the wood itself, the icon becomes what? An idol. An idol. You see, this painting here of man and woman, just as God made us to be, this is an icon. This icon reveals the call to holy communion between man and woman. It reveals this call to bring life into the world. The love of man and woman is so holy, so powerful, that it literally brings human life into existence. We should be thanking God every day for the sexual union of our parents. I know you don't like to think about mom, dad. Okay, so don't think about it. But do thank God every day for the sexual union of your parents and their 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 parents. Because without each and every one of those sexual unions, you would not exist. See, this painting tells the story of the whole of human history. This painting tells the story of a God who loves us so much that he wants to marry us. See, God wanted this eternal marital plan. His desire to be one with us forever in an ecstasy of love that is infinite. He wanted that eternal marital plan to be so plain to us, so obvious, that he stamped an image of it right in our bodies by making us male and female and calling the two to this holy communion. This painting is meant to point us to heaven. This is what St. Paul says in Ephesians chapter 5. He quotes from this book end of the Bible, and then he links it with this book end of the Bible when he says, "For this reason, a man will leave his father and his mother, and the two will become one flesh." And then he adds, "This is a great mystery." And it refers to Christ and the church. Did you hear that? You know, the whole reason we are sexual beings, the whole reason we are male and female, and the whole purpose of human sexuality, the whole purpose of this painting is to reveal Christ's love for the church. Christ left his Father in heaven. He left the home of his mother on earth to give up his body for his bride, so that we, the bride of Christ, might become one flesh with him. Where do we become one flesh with Christ? In Holy Communion. You see, this Holy Communion of man and woman is just a little glimmer of the Holy Communion of Christ and the church. I never met my father-in-law. He died when my wife was a girl. But I admire him tremendously because of this story. He married my mother-in-law in the mid-60s. Thanks be to God, or I wouldn't have my wife. They married on a Saturday. They consummated their love as husband and wife that evening. Sunday morning, they went to Mass for the first time as husband and wife. And coming back from receiving the Eucharist, my father-in-law was in tears. And his new bride said, "Honey, what is it?" And through his tears, he said, "For the first time in my life, I understood the meaning of those words. This is my body. Give it up for you." My brothers and sisters, what I'm here to suggest tonight, what I'm here to propose tonight, is that the whole purpose of this painting, the whole purpose of our sexuality, the holy communion of man and woman, is to lead us to the holy communion of Christ and the church. Where did it all go wrong? Why don't we understand it this way? How come a lot of us have never heard this before? Just show of hands. How many of you were raised in a Christian home? Show of hands. How many of you would say that in your Christian upbringing there is open, honest, normal, healthy conversation about God's glorious, beautiful, wonderful, stupendous plan for sex? Please raise your hand. 1. How many of you would say that growing up you learned that the one flesh union in all its splendor and glory, according to God's plan, is meant to be a foreshadowing of the eternal ecstasy and bliss that awaits us in heaven? Please raise your hand. 1. The other 99% of us were raised on the starvation diet gospel. And this is probably why 90% of us or more have fallen for the fast food gospel. Because if the only choice is starve or chicken nuggets, what are we going to do? Chicken nuggets. And this is probably why we're hurting. Because there's so much grease and sodium in our system that our organs are starting to shut down. And I'm not here to condemn. I'm not here to wag the finger. I'm here with compassion. I'm here with understanding. Been there. Been there. Have compassion on yourself. Maybe understand now why you go to the chicken nuggets. Why you go to the fast food. Because if it's a contest between starved and fast food, the fast food wins. But if it's a contest between the banquet and the fast food, what wins? The banquet. But most of us don't know about this banquet. I didn't know about it until I discovered this theology of the body. Well, guess who does know about this banquet? There's an enemy with one goal for your life. There is an enemy who has one very specific goal for your life. Just one. To prevent you from entering into this eternal wedding feast. And think about it. If this painting is the main clue to lead us to the feast of heaven, how do you think the enemy feels about this painting? He hates it with all his vile, diabolic fury. So where do you think he aims all his diabolic fury? Right at this painting. So what has happened to this beautiful, wonderful painting through original sin? It's become terribly twisted and distorted. And here is the classic blunder of, quote, spiritual people. Quote, spiritual people, end quote, encounter this painting in all its twisted up, distorted form, and what does it look like? Trash. So what do you think the solution is? Throw it away. And a lot of Christians grow up believing a heresy that the Catholic Church has condemned over and over and over again. And the heresy goes like this. Very simple. Spirit good, body bad. It's a heresy, folks. There are a lot of people trying to live a spiritual life divorced from their bodies. There's actually a kind of technical theological term to describe the separation of body and soul. Maybe you've heard this word before. It's called death. The separation of body and soul is death. So what do you have when you have a church full of people who are trying to live a spiritual life divorced from their bodies? What are they? They're dead. Jesus took on flesh, not to condemn our flesh, but to redeem our flesh. You see, this has to come out of the trash can. Two men in the 20th century pulled this out of the trash can. One man's name was Hugh Hefner. You know who Hugh Hefner is? Founder of Playboy magazine. pulled this out of the trash can and started saying to the modern world, you must not throw this away. Was he right? On that point, he was right. But where was he wrong? And seriously wrong? He left it in its twisted, distorted form. And he started saying to the world, hey, don't you want to take a look at this? Don't you want to take a look at this? And because we were raised on the starvation diet gospel, the whole world said, yes, I do want to take a look at that. 60 years later, pornography is a multi-billion-dollar industry. The porno industry brings in more money in America every year than all professional sports combined. There are more hardcore porno shops in America than there are McDonald's restaurants. And I would venture to say 80 to 90% of the people in this auditorium tonight have been exposed to hardcore pornography. Pornography has become the frame in which we understand our sexuality. I'm not here to condemn. I'm not here to scold. I'm here to say there's another way to see. There's another way to think. See, there's another man who pulled this out of the trash can. Right at the same time, Hugh Hefner started Playboy magazine in the early 1950s. This young Polish priest named Karol Wojtyła also pulled this out of the trash can and started saying to the modern world, you mustn't throw this away. But he did something Hugh Hefner didn't do and couldn't do. By reflecting deeply on God's original plan, and by reflecting deeply on what Jesus did in taking on a body, in dying on the cross, in rising from the dead, reflecting deeply on what St. Paul talks about in Romans chapter 8, the redemption of our bodies. He started saying to the modern world, let me show you what you've been throwing away. And he started uncrumpling for us the original, beautiful, wonderful plan of God for our bodies. My brothers and sisters, there's another way to see. There's another way to think. There's another way to live. There's another way to experience our sexuality. But here's the tragedy. We have forgotten who we are. God is singing to us an infinite and eternal love song. The Bible begins with a marriage, it ends with a marriage. Guess what is smack dab in the middle of the Bible? This beautiful erotic love poetry called the Song of Songs. And it is the favorite book in the Bible of almost all the greatest saints. The saints have written more commentaries on the Song of Songs, this erotic love poetry, than any other book in the Bible. Why? What do these saints know that we don't know? They have been awakened to the music that God is singing. God is singing to us a love song, and we have to let it awaken us. I want to introduce you to a friend of mine. His name is Henry. I've never met him, but I've watched this video on YouTube like a million times. And I want to share it with you because here is a man who has forgotten who he is. But music restores him to himself. Let's take a look.
See Henry inert, maybe depressed, unresponsive, and almost unalive.
Henry.
Yeah,
Henry.
yes, so.
I found your music. You want your music now?
What do you want me?
Let's try your music, okay? And then you tell me if it's too loud or not.
Then he is given an iPod containing we know his favorite music. And immediately he lights up. His face assumes expression, his eyes open wide. He starts to sing and to rock and to move his arms, and he's being animated by the music.
And he used to always sit on the unit with his head like this. He didn't really talk to much people. And then when I introduced the music to him, this is his reaction ever since.
The philosopher Kant once called music the quickening art, and Henry is being quickened, he's being brought to life.
Yeah.
I'm going to take the music for 1 second, okay? Just to ask you a few questions. Okay? I'm going to give it back to you.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
The effect of this doesn't stop, because when the headphones are taken off, Henry, normally mute and virtually unable to answer the simplest yes or no questions, is quite voluble.
Henry,
Yeah.
do you like the iPod? Do you like the music you're hearing?
Yes.
Tell me about your music.
Well, I don't have one, my man. The Wooly, the Millie, the Ollie, the Ah.
What's your favorite Cab Calloway song?
Oh, I'll be home there for Christmas. Oh, you can count and plan on me with plenty of snow, mistletoe, present wrapped around your tree. Ow!
So in some sense, Henry is restored to himself. He has remembered who he is, and he's reacquired his identity for a while through the power of music.
What does music do to you?
Give me the feeling of love. No man. Figure right now the world need to come into music, singing. You got beautiful music here. Beautiful, oh, lovely. And I feel the band of love, dream. The Lord came to me, made me holy. I'm a holy man. So he gave me this sound. I'll just say, I meet you. Let me see. Rosalie, won't you love me? Rosalie, won't you be sweet and kind?
With this beautiful new technology, you can have all the music which is animate, organize, and bring a sense of identity back to people who are out of it. Otherwise, music will bring them back into it, into their own personhood, their own memories, their own autobiographies.
I know there are some of you here tonight who feel dead, who feel numb. And the culture actually wants us to feel numb. Why? See, culture that sells us a counterfeit version of love and happiness and fulfillment on the one hand. On the other hand, they also have to sell us all kinds of numbing agents to keep us from feeling the pain that we're in. Let's go back to my dorm room in 1988. I was sober that night. By the grace of God, I was sober that night. If I had been drunk when my roommate came back, I just would have been numb to the whole thing. If I had been drunk lying on the floor in that other guy's room, I just would have been numb to the whole thing. But the pain of those experiences were my wake-up call. You may feel numb, you may feel dead, but the last last words of that little video clip are very important. I'm here to tell you, you are alive inside. And I know there are some of you here tonight, you've heard something in what I've shared with you, and you're wondering, am I really allowed to hope that these dreams I have for happiness, for love, for real love, am I really allowed to hope that this is possible? You mean I don't have to settle like everybody else is just settling? My dear brothers and sisters, can we have the courage to feel what we really feel? To feel the pain of Saturday morning or Sunday morning when we know what we did the night before and we're all pretending we're having a good time, but we feel like shit inside? Can I say, am I allowed to say that? I just didn't. Can we be honest? And can we allow ourselves to cry out and say, God, please, 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 why did you give me these desires? They're getting me in trouble. What am I supposed to do? I follow these desires and the next morning I feel like crap. And everybody else is pretending we're having fun, but are we really having fun here? I don't know. Have we had enough yet of the illusions and the counterfeits and the BS that goes on? Is there another way to live? Is there another way to see? Is there another way to think? Is there another way to go where we can actually end in the fulfillment we yearn for? My brothers and sisters, I am here to say yes, there is another way to see, another way to think, another way to direct our desires according to God's design, and it'll launch us toward destiny. See, God gave us sexual desire to be like the fuel, the power of a rocket, to launch us into the stars, to infinity and beyond. But what would happen if those rocket engines became inverted? No longer pointing us to the stars, but pointing us back on ourselves. Set that rocket off, and what's going to happen? Self-destruction. The problem is not with the rocket. The problem is that our engines are pointed in the wrong direction. Do you know what the virtue is that redirects our rocket engines towards the stars? Chastity. Now, the very word chastity has to be rehabilitated. Because it just seems like something repressive and negative. And people think, oh my gosh, doing things the moral way sure takes the spontaneity out of things. My gosh. Can't even a married couple just go with it? Go with the passion? All this moral reasoning? Or is this right? Is this wrong? Is this lust? Is this love? Oh my gosh, forget that. I'm just doing it. Chastity is so oppressive and repressive. Well, I'm feeling spontaneous right now. Not in that way. In this way, I want to play the piano. I'm going to play the piano. What the heck? Are you ready? Who in here actually plays the piano? Would you be willing? Thank you. What's your name, bud? Patrick. Go for it, Patrick. Discipline. Am I right? Practice. Am I right? Sacrifice. Am I right? Self-denial. Am I right? Would we say his sacrifice, his discipline was worth it? My brothers and sisters, the gospel does not call all of us to be professional pianists, but it does call all of us to be professional lovers. Jesus says, love one another as I have loved you. I tell you this, so that your life might be miserable. Is that what Jesus says? No, he says, I tell you this, so that my joy might be in you, and your joy might be fulfilled. And we are talking about an infinite ecstasy of joy and bliss. That's what the gospel promises us. But we have to become professional lovers, and it will demand more sacrifice, more discipline, more self-control and self-denial than playing the piano the way Patrick did. Will it be worth it? Yes, yes, yes. Anybody, when it comes to sex, can make meaningless noise. And that meaningless noise grates against our hearts. And if you don't feel it grating against your heart, it's because you're drunk on something, you're numb to it. Unchaste sex is like taking a cheese grater over your heart. It hurts. Because we're not made for that. We're made for love. We're made for a love that lasts forever. Oh my gosh, just turn on the radio and you'll hear the cry of the heart for this love that lasts forever. Keeping you forever and for always. We will be together all of our days. I love you always, forever, near, far, closer together. I'm forever yours, faithfully. Now imagine if that song went like this. For 2 weeks I'm yours, then I'll leave. The Catholic Church imposes nothing on the human heart when the Catholic Church says sexual love is meant to last forever. Forever. Anybody seen the movie Vanilla Sky? No. A couple of them. It came out in the 90s. When were you guys born? Yeah, probably right about the time you were born that movie came out. Okay. Well, there's a line in this movie where Tom Cruise and Cameron Diaz, they had this fling, and the next day she says to him, when are you going to take your promises seriously? He says, what are you talking about? She says, your body makes a promise even if you don't. My brothers and sisters, the basic message tonight is this. The ache we feel, the yearning we feel when our hearts are pierced by beauty, it's a yearning for an infinite love, a love that lasts forever. The whole sexual mystery, it's meant to launch us to that love that lasts forever. But it can only do that if we're learning here to love forever. There are sexual behaviors that launch us towards the stars, that lift our hearts to the heavens. There are sexual behaviors and a way of living our sexuality that is beautiful music, that restores us to who we really are, like Henry. When we hear God's music, it wakens us up, restores us to who we are. But there's meaningless noise that takes us in another direction. And my question to you tonight is, what do you want? The meaningless noise is everywhere. The fast food is everywhere. But if you want this infinite bliss, if you want this love that lasts forever, you got to make some choices. You got to make some sacrifices. You got to make some hard decisions. You got to commit to being faithful to it. Because we're all called to be professional lovers. And it doesn't matter how messed up your heart is. We all start right here. Each and every one of us. We all start here. And all we can say is, God, here I am, messed up as I am. And you know what He does? He loves us right here. And then He starts singing to us. And it's His song in our hearts, His love song. He came not to condemn. He came to save. And the more we tune into this infinite love song, the more our true humanity is restored. It's been a great gift to be with you here tonight. I'm part of an organization called the Core Project, and our mission is to spread this vision around the world. Before we conclude, I want to invite my brother Jason up here just to share a little bit about this Core Project, about the resource out here, and how you can get involved. So thank you very much. I'll be out at the book table.